Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2. Today I'm going to be making an updated build guide for FL4K, both for leveling and just starting out, and also for endgame. There have been a few changes for FL4K, and also I figured I would just make an updated video anyways, because the initial video that I made is a little bit outdated at this point due to me and just not knowing a whole lot of information on FL4K from the get-go, but now I have a much deeper understanding of the character and figured that it was worth making an updated video. Before I get into everything, I would like to give a big thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Forget anything you think you know about mobile games because one of the most ambitious RPG products of 2019 has just been released and it's going to change everything. Raid Shadow Legends is one of the most immersive experiences you'll ever find on a smartphone, and it can really only be compared with the biggest PC and console titles. It's that good, and the best part, it's completely free. Raid has all of the features that you'd expect from a brand new RPG title, like an amazing storyline, amazing 3D graphics, giant boss fights, PvP battles, and hundreds of champions to collect and customize. Honestly, one of the most surprising parts about this game is that I never expected to get this level of performance out of a mobile game. And you can tell it's really good when over 10 million players worldwide have already downloaded the game in less than 6 months. One of my favorite parts about Raid is that you can customize and unlock new abilities for your champions. You have the ability to personally customize every individual champion, choosing their artifacts and creating a unique mastery build for each one of them, and that's definitely my favorite part of it. Another thing that I am personally very down for is combating against other live players. Overall, this is the best mobile game that I've seen, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at the over 300,000 reviews that were on the Google Play Store, and Raid, as you can see, has almost a perfect score. The game is growing super fast, and the highly anticipated new Faction Wars feature is now live, so there isn't a better time to jump into the game. And new players can also get a new daily login reward for the first 90 days in the game. If you do download it, you can find me in-game under the name Nick2. So if you're interested, just go to the video description, click on the special links, and you'll get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to start your journey. Again, big thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video, and let's get right into it. In this guide, I will be going over good weapon choices, artifacts, class mods, etc. But first, the most important thing we're going to start out with is the skills, and just like all my other leveling guides, we're going to start out with a completely empty slate, and then I'm just going to go in the order in which I think is the most important. First off, I think the most crucial thing to get is initially getting 3 into Persistence Hunter. This is going to give you an extra 12% gun damage and 45% action skill duration. The reason you want this is the action skill duration is going to help you a lot when using your fadeaway ability, which is the main component of this build. Whenever you use fadeaway, you gain increased movement speed and health regen, but you also gain crit damage, movement speed, and it has a 15-second duration, but that's being increased by the fact that you're using Persistence Hunter. But we're actually going to end up using Gorillas in the Mist, which means that our fadeaway is not going to fade away any XD. It's not going to go away anymore after 3 seconds, or 3 shots rather, but it's going to last 5 seconds and you can shoot infinitely. The reason that we want this is because we're mainly going to be using full auto weapons with this build, but first thing we want to do is be able to unlock Gorillas in the Mist. So what we're going to do is we're going to spec 5 into Furious Attack here right off the bat, and then that's going to give us access to Gorillas in the Mist. Furious Attack just gives you extra gun damage the more and more that you hit targets, as well as handling, so this is probably one of the better talents of FL4K because you can literally just stack this up over and over again. Sikkim, not very good because your pet doesn't really do a whole lot of damage, so you don't really want to worry about the attack from your pet. And then Self-Repairing System, getting max health is not all that big of a deal. I'm more of a damage-oriented person, and ultimately that's going to, help you progress through, leveling and stuff much faster anyways. Next thing we're going to spec into is 5 into Overclock. This is going to give you increased fire rate all across the board. Overall, that's just extra damage, so that's really good. Next thing we're going to spec into is Turn Tail and Run. This is going to give you, FL4K is constantly going to regenerate health while you're moving, and you're also going to gain damage reduction. But if you're standing still, you gain gun damage and fire rate. So if you kind of intentionally play around this and you kind of sit still, even though it does sound a little counterintuitive to stand still, it is worth it because you're getting 25% extra gun damage and 12% fire rate. So definitely a super good talent here, and I mean, getting the damage reduction and the health regen by itself is really strong as well. Lick the Wounds is okay while you're leveling because it'll make it to where your pet will revive you. So if you're noticing that you're dying kind of frequently and it would be nice to have your pet revive you, you can spec into that, but this being an end game setup, I'm not really going to be worrying about this. This is not very good, just health regen with your pet. doesn't really matter. And Eager to Impress is the next thing we're going to spec into, because we want to get further down into this tree. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is unlock Until You're Dead as soon as humanly possible, or not Until You're Dead, Unblinking Eye as soon as humanly possible. So we're just trying to get deep down this tree. So the next thing we're going to go into is 5 into Hidden Machine. This says when an enemy has no target or is attacking a different target, Flak deals increased damage against them. Whenever you are in your fadeaway, it counts as you being not targetable. So you're basically just gaining that additional damage almost all the time whenever you're in fadeaway. And the main focus of playing Flak is trying to get your fadeaway back as fast as possible and just using it as much as possible as well. So now we have Unblinking Eye. And here's one thing that you can do. So you could either continue down this tree, and that's what we're ultimately going to do, is we're going to spec 3 into the Fast and the Furious, giving us extra gun damage and movement speed while you're above half health, meaning that you're pretty much gaining that almost all the time. And then we're just going to go a couple points into Eager to Impress to get further down the tree. Eager to Impress itself is okay. It's just a kill skill that whenever you kill an enemy, it reduces your action skill cooldown time. The amount that it reduces it by is pretty negligible, but if you're killing mobs back to back to back, it could help out a little bit. But honestly, there isn't really anything else worth speccing into. Maybe you could go into Self-Repairing System for just survivability if you don't think that this is worth it, but I don't really need the health, so not a big deal. And then we get the Power Inside, which is we gain extra damage when we activate our action skill. And if our health is full, we gain double the damage. So whenever we're in fadeaway, we're basically just getting an additional 50% damage, which is very strong. Now, one setup that you could do, instead of going in this order, you could just spec into here until you get Unblinking Eye, which, by the way, is probably the best thing about this build. If you keep hitting the same target, it just increases your crit damage every time over and over again. 75% per hit. I mean, that's just a lot of extra free damage. But what you could do is just spec into it until you get Unblinking Eye, and then immediately jump into this tree and just book it for the talent head count. Head count is really good early on because whenever you score a crit, there's a chance to reduce the action skill cooldown. The action skill cooldown is going to basically mean that you get your fadeaway faster, which is a very big part of this build because you spec into this 3 times, and then every single time you get a crit, or every third crit that you get, it reduces the cooldown time by a pretty decent amount. So you're able to just get your skill back over and over and over again if you purposely go out of your way to get crits with like a higher RPM weapon or something. What you'd want to spec into here is 3 into Leave No Trace. This is probably one of the better talents anyways. Basically, this just allows you to, whenever you score a crit, gives you ammo back, and there's a 36% chance for this to happen. That ammo will go immediately back into your current magazine, so you can just continue shooting over and over again. One interesting intricacy with this, though, is that if you're using a gun that shoots multiple projectiles simultaneously, basically it will count that over and over again. So let's say I shoot a shotgun and it has 8 pellets. That means that the game counts it as me critting 8 times per pellet, or not per pellet, but 8 times overall, meaning that out of those 8, maybe like, let's just say, 3 of them or so are going to refund ammo. That means I get 3 bullets back. So I'll shoot one thing of my shotgun and get 3 bullets back, meaning that I won't have to reload very much if I'm constantly landing crits. You could argue that speccing into this early on is probably more important than getting Unblinking Eye early. It's kind of up to you what you want to do there. You could easily just go 3 into Leave No Trace, like immediately, right after you get Persistence Hunter. And then you can start going down this tree and get Gorillas in the Mist. And then maybe once you get Unblinking Eye, you could then start speccing into here, getting 3 into Leave No Trace. And then you would immediately want to get Interplanetary Stalker. We're going to go 5 into this. This is going to give us 10% extra damage whenever we kill any enemy. And we're also going to get an additional buff based on what type of enemy that is, either being a robot, human, or a beast, giving us either corrosive damage, action skill damage, or movement speed. Not a ton of interesting stuff there, but the main part is that you're just getting extra damage every time you kill somebody. Second Intention is okay. It's just going to increase your reload speed every time you get a kill. Maybe okay for leveling, but I'm particularly more focused on the damage aspect of things. And then we're going to go, like I said, 3 into head count. And then one of the better talents in the entire game here is Two Fang. This is going to give you a chance to fire an extra projectile per shot, giving you a 25% chance overall, which literally means a 25% extra damage buff. I'm not sure how the rest of the damage in the game is calculated, but this is literally just giving you an extra 25% damage, which is insane. Now what we're going to do is preferably we would go 3 into big game. Because of a certain skill mod that I have, I'm actually going to put 1 into the most dangerous game. I actually meant to only put 4 into Interplanetary Stalker so that I would be able to get 3 into big game and then 1 into the most dangerous game. I made a mistake there. While you're leveling though, you don't really need the most dangerous game. You could spec into it, but you're not killing a whole bunch of badass NPCs. And as you can see, I only have 3 points here, and I think that big game is going to be more impactful. Big game is going to give you 100% hunter skill duration whenever, or your hunter skills, which is like your hunter skill kills, and it's also going to increase the effectiveness of these. Hunter skill kills are something like Interplanetary Stalker, meaning that this is going to give you 13% damage per stack rather than giving 10% because you have a 30% effect bonus, but it is also going to last 2 times as long. That's also going to be the case for Furious Attack, and it's also going to be the case for what? No, that's it. But I mean, just buffing those 2 things by themselves is incredibly strong. But like I said, if you're doing this for endgame, I would go 4 into Interplanetary Stalker, and then 1 into the most dangerous game. Most dangerous game is really good because just whenever you kill a badass enemy, you get extra crit damage and gun damage, which is really strong. The reason that this is really good, which we can now start talking about, let me mention the pet thing and then I'll get into gear. So in terms of what pet you want to use, it's kind of up to preference. Personally, I like to use the pet that gives me extra movement speed and crit damage. Overall, this just correlates to free damage pretty much, and usually if you have the pet that like runs into melee range, it'll just die over and over again. And the class mod that I have, whenever my pet deals damage, they gain a stack of Frenzy, giving them extra damage, which is pretty cool. But they're not going to be stacking that at all, really, if they're just running into melee and dying. And the pet does a little bit of damage if you spec into Gunslinger, but it's really not a big deal. You could easily spec into Spider Ant Scorcher for the 10% elemental damage if you wanted to. You could spec into this for more survivability. This is not worth it, I don't think, at all. But yeah, getting extra crit damage and movement speed is always nice. So getting into mods, this is why you'd want the most dangerous game, is because you have a mod where you have a chance to activate any of your kill skills when you deal gun damage, and then it also is going to treat bosses as humans, beasts, and robotics. This is particularly good for killing bosses, not super strong when you're just killing normal mobs over and over again. It kind of depends on the content that you're doing. Certain types of content, it could be beneficial to use this, but typically speaking, if you're killing enough mobs, you're going to have those kill skills anyways, so you don't necessarily need this. But this will just make it to where you get your stacks up a lot faster, because you have a 3% chance every time you deal damage to activate any of your skills. I don't know why the text that says whenever you do deal damage is omitted. Oh, never mind, I'm retarded, it's right there. But this also counts per projectile. So if you were to shoot a gun that, like I said with the shotgun example, let's say the shotgun shoots 8 pellets. If I were to shoot it once, that goes from a 3% chance to what, a 24% chance per shot. So I only have to shoot 4 shotgun shots in order to basically guarantee myself a kill skill. So yeah, that's pretty strong. What's great about this though, that pairs in with the most dangerous game, is that you can get your kill skill, the dangerous game, without even killing a boss, or without even killing a badass rather, which means that you can just have this up all the time, because since you're speccing into big game, it's going to make this last for 240 seconds, which is crazy. But if you're fighting a boss, you're not ordinarily going to be able to get this buff. But if you are fighting a boss with this class mod, now you're able to get that extra bonus damage. Usually these bounty hunter mods will roll with most dangerous game on it, like this one, and has +1 on it. So then you'd end up having +2. And it also gives you +2 into Hunter's Eye, which is pretty good because it'll just increase your damage against bosses pretty much. And then you get Frenzy. Frenzy's pretty negligible, but hey, is what it is. I'm using this one that doesn't have it because it gives me 30% sniper rifle damage, which is really good because Lyuda is super strong for killing bosses. If you're trying to get a gun that's really good at killing bosses, highly recommend the Lyuda. In terms of what other class mod you'd want to use just for like general mobbing purposes, I think the Deadeye is probably your best bet. This is going to give you and your pets 35% extra damage against enemies above 75% health. That in itself is pretty good, but the main thing here is that you get +1 into Turn, Tail, and Run, which is going to give you just extra gun damage all the time pretty much, because that's whenever you're above half health you get extra gun damage. You're also getting +2 into Two Fang, which is going to bump you up from 25% extra projectile chance to 35%. That's 10% just extra damage overall, which I think is going to be much more impactful than having the most dangerous game up. It kind of depends though, because typically you'll have the most dangerous game up anyways if you're speccing into it, and then you could just use this class mod. In terms of what guns are good to use, the Lyuda is really good, Rowan's Call is really good, Lucian's Call is really good. I made a video on the top 10 best guns for flak. I'll leave a link to that in the description if you're interested in watching that. I'm not going to go on about it too much in this video, but shotguns that shoot multiple pellets are very good because of the interaction with Leave No Trace. And any gun that whenever you crit, it returns bullets to your magazine and ricochets is also very good because it limits the amount of time that you're spending reloading. And additionally, ricocheting bullets all over the place is a lot of fun. And guns with very high RPM, such as Lucian's Call, if you just beam headshots and you take advantage of the talent head count, you can just get your skill back over and over and over again, like you saw in the intro clip. In terms of shields, I have no idea. I have not done a ton of testing with shields, and I've honestly found that it does not make much of a difference. If there's a good anointed effect, please let me know. I've yet to see one that's actually decent, but I don't think the shield matters that much. Neither does the grenade. In terms of what gun you want, or relic you want to use, or artifact, I'm only using this one because it gives me 40% mag size, meaning that my Lyuda goes from a 20 mag size to a 27. Overall, that's really strong, just getting extra mag size overall. But another thing that's really good is star power, that you just have a per shot, basically a chance to proc extra like shock damage that kind of just tethers damage. Overall, it's kind of just free damage. Other than that, you could get like a temporary invulnerability artifact, or you can get an artifact that gives you extra elemental damage when you're taking damage from that same element. For flak, it's not as impactful to have a super good artifact, but honestly, getting one with magazine size, or getting something that gives you, sniper damage, or whatever, respective damage that the gun that you're using is, maybe Jacobs for Rowan's Call, or Vladoff for Lucian's Call, or Vladoff for Lyuda, whatever it is. That would be really good. You can get like Torg crit damage. You can get just flat crit damage. Anything like that is going to be really strong for you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.